Hey everyone, it's Miranda here, professional counselor and owner at Restorative Pathways Counseling, and we're back with another episode of Coffee with a Counselor. And this is going to be another video where we're answering questions, and the question for today is, why do I stress about everything? Everybody says don't stress the small stuff, but I stress about all of the small things, and how do I stop? So we're going to dive into that. I think it's a really relevant question in this day and age. I think that it's a question that a lot of people are asking or wondering about. And before we jump into anything else, I want to talk about how this is a cultural issue, not just an individual issue. The American Psychological Association, or APA, did a survey called Stress in America, and I'll post more about that in the blog with a link to some of their findings. But some of their top findings that they saw were that 44% of Americans report that their stress levels have risen in the past 5 years, that only 40% of Americans report that their health is very good or excellent, and unfortunately that it's even starting to affect our kids, that 1/3 of children who completed the survey reported that they had experienced a physical symptom of stress in the last week, like a headache or a stomach ache or something along those lines. What they also found is that not only has stress been on the rise, that it's the highest it's ever been that they have seen according to research, and that it doesn't look like it's going down anytime soon. And with all of that being a cultural issue, I think it can be really difficult as individuals to not get sucked into this acceptance of the idea that being stressed as a state is normal. And I'm here to tell you that there's a better way, that you don't have to walk around feeling like a big old ball of stress all of the time, that there is a way that you can manage your stress so that you can have a sense of calm and peace for a majority of the time. Of course, you're going to face stressful situations. Of course, you're going to face circumstances that you can't control. But if you have a good way of coping with those and getting through those, that it doesn't have to take over your entire day or your entire week or your entire year of making you feel stressed out all of the time. So with that, I want to jump into a concept that I teach to probably 95% of the clients that come in to see me for counseling, if not more. And I hope that I can do it justice in just a few minutes. This is something that I review over and over with clients. It's something that I've taught courses on, that have been 10-session courses, and we still don't get through all of the material. And this is based on a book by Dr. Cloud and Townsend. I'll post a link in the description box for you to find more information about that book. But this graph that I have is adapted from that book. So we're going to jump into that, and then we'll talk about how we can use this to manage stress. So I want you to imagine that everybody in the world, including yourself, has a bubble. And in that bubble, you have your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors, and your biology. And these things that are inside your bubble are within your control, and they're your responsibility. Everything that you face in life is going to fall into one of these 5 categories. Either one of these things that's internal, one of these 4 things in your bubble, or it's going to be outside of your bubble in your environment. And the important thing to remember is if it's inside my bubble, I have control over it. I'm responsible for it. If it's outside my bubble, I have no control over it. I have no responsibility for it. And that's a good way to separate things out. Just to break these down a little bit more in a little bit more detail. So our biology, we obviously don't have a ton of control over that. We kind of get what we get. And apart from medical intervention, there's not much that we can do to control or change our biology. It's the same thing with our feelings. We don't do a lot to try to change or control our feelings. Our feelings are just reactions to things that are happening around us, whether that be internally or externally. And our emotions are good things. We want to be experiencing a broad spectrum of feelings. I will talk a lot more about this over time. But we don't try to change our feelings, but we can manage and regulate our emotions so that they don't get out of hand. But the 2 things that inside our bubble that we do have absolute control over are our thoughts and our behaviors. That's a lot of what we work on in counseling here with cognitive behavioral therapy, is how to control your thoughts, how to work through your thoughts, how to change negative thinking. And then our behaviors, we are always in control of what we do and what we don't do and how we respond to the things that happen to us. So everybody's got their bubble. And the way that we use this to manage stress is a lot of times if we listen to our feelings, they're important data for us. So if I am feeling stressed or anxious and I look at the situation, I would say 98% of the time I'm probably focusing on something that's outside of my bubble that I don't have any control over. And so let's use an example, and we'll kind of put this to the test, put it to use. So let's say you're going to a family event and a family member there is always really critical, and they always nitpick on things, or they make rude comments, and you're anticipating going to that. It always stresses you out. It always turns into a fight, and it causes a lot of anxiety in you. So if we look at our chart here and we look at what's in our bubble, so them saying critical things or nitpicking, that is their behavior. That means that's in my environment. I can't control that. I can't control what they think, how they feel, what they say or do, but I can control how I think about it and how I perceive it. I can control or manage my emotions, and I can control how I react to what they're saying to me. And so this is the way that we kind of use this to manage stress, by focusing on the things that are in my bubble instead of focusing on all of the things that are outside my bubble. I could go into that situation saying, well, they shouldn't be saying those things, or I wish they would stop, or what can I say to her to make her stop saying these critical things to me? And the reality is I can't do anything about that. I can't change what she's doing. But if I take a perspective of what can I do differently, what can I control in this situation? I can't control that person, but I can control me. I could decide I don't want to go to the event. If it's causing too much stress for me, I can manage my stress by putting some distance between me and this person. I could decide I'm going to ignore those comments. I'm expecting them to make those comments. I'm just going to let them go. That's going to be my response. I could confront that behavior and tell them that I don't appreciate those comments, or those comments hurt my feelings. So there's a lot of things that I can choose to do in reaction to that. But if I focus on that person and what they're doing, that's when a lot of stress and anxiety and frustration is going to come in. So 2 things with using boundaries as a way to manage stress. Focus on the things that are inside your bubble when you're facing a stressful situation. If you focus on the things that are outside your bubble, you're going to cause more stress for yourself, because those are things that are outside of your control that you can't do anything about. And then as far as the things that are outside of your bubble, work on accepting those things as truth and reality. And what I mean by that is I often hear people and clients, just people in general, say things like, they shouldn't say those things to me. This shouldn't be happening. I should have done better. And the reality is, when we use should statements, that's a cognitive distortion, because it makes us argue with reality. So a lot of times my response is, somebody says, well, he shouldn't have said that to me. Okay, but he did say that to you. So what are we going to do about it? This shouldn't have happened. Okay, but it is happening. So what are we going to do about it? And that kind of turnaround is a way to bring things back into your bubble on what you can focus on. If I spend my time thinking about this shouldn't be happening, they should be treating me nicer, those should statements are an argument with what's actually happening. And what that does is it debilitates us and it keeps us in that situation instead of helping us move through a painful situation. None of us want to stay in a painful situation longer than we have to. And so those 2 tips of focusing on what's inside of my bubble and working on accepting the things that are outside of my bubble instead of arguing with them and wishing they were different, those are ways that we can use boundaries to manage stress. Okay, so that's all I have for now. On Thursday, we're going to be doing another live video as kind of a part 2 to this on how to manage stress with some different tips. I'll give you guys 5 tips on how to manage stress. We'll be posting a blog post either tomorrow or Wednesday with more information in regards to this video, plus a transcript from the video. I have the Boundaries book linked above. And if you have any questions or topics you hope that we'll talk about in the future, make sure you comment below or send us a private message, and we will see you on Thursday. All right, bye everyone. Thanks for watching.